Hello, hello, it's Charmaine Hammond, and we are so excited to be here today for a fantastic webinar with two people I absolutely adore, and Teresa de Grosbois, who's going to be my co-host. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually introduce Teresa de Grosbois, who is then going to introduce our two amazing expert speakers today. I want you to make sure you grab a pen and a pencil because we have a lot of content for you in this hour. This is jam-packed, rich content that's really going to help you transform your business. Teresa de Grosbois, some of you have met her. She is not only a dear friend of mine, she's the founder of the Evolutionary Business Council, which is an organization of thought leaders, conscious business owners who are making a big difference in the world through their businesses. She is the best-selling author of a fantastic book that I've now read twice. It's getting full of sticky notes and hot yellow highlighter, Mass Influence. And Teresa is a professional speaker. She speaks around the globe on topics of bestseller campaigns, and also how to build your influence, and also business success strategies. Welcome to the webinar, Teresa. We're so delighted to have you.
Oh, it's so great to be here. I'm so super excited. Boy, Steve Olsher and Alex Mandossian on the same call. You guys are in for a ride. These two guys, I've learned so much from both of them. And they're amazing, beautiful human beings. Let me give them a quick introduction. Steve Olsher, if you don't already know him, my God, you need to get to know this man. He's known as the world's foremost reinvention expert, a 25-year-plus entrepreneur. He's the chairman and co-founder of Liquor.com. He's the New York Times best-selling author of one of my favorite books, What Is Your What? Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do. And he's the host of one of the funnest radio podcast shows that I've ever been on. Actually, I love his show, Reinvention Radio. And our second guest I know needs no introduction. He's just an icon in the speaking world, Alex Mandossian. Since 1993, Alex has generated nearly $400 million in sales and profits for his marketing students, clients, and joint venture partners, which range across 5 continents. His marketing strategies helped convert his personal annual income in 2001 to a monthly income by 2003 and an hourly by 2006. I love that statistic. And by 2007, his proven virtual enrollment strategies helped him generate $1.2 million in less than 29 minutes. This is just someone so many people in this industry have learned from. Alex is acknowledged by his colleagues as the Warren Buffett of the internet because of his unique ability to make money for his students and joint venture partners. He's shared the stage with diverse leaders such as Sir Richard Branson, Harvey Mackay, Donald Trump, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Susie Ormond, and none other than His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I love that. And as a master virtual presenter with over 22,000 hours of training experience since 1989, Alex's lifetime goal with his colleague Jack Canfield is to influence training 1 million trainers by his 77th birthday. Alex, Steve, thank you so much for joining us. It's just a joy to have you here today.
I wish my mother could hear that introduction. She finally figured out what I do. She still doesn't know what I do.
Oh, I love that. We'll send her the video, Alex. Yeah, I also want to shout out Alex and Steve because Teresa and I held the Global Influence Summit recently in San Diego, and Steve and Alex were sponsors of this event for us, and as was Push Button Influence. So we really wanted to thank you again both for your tremendous support of the Global Influence Summit and all you've done to help us through your webinars raise the level of consciousness and understanding about how important influence is in the world and in business.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Okay, let's dive in. We've got tons of questions, and we're dying to know the answers to these. So let me kick off the first question. Teresa and I are going to rotate back and forth and make this a conversation. And we have a chat box, everyone who's on the web panel, so you can go in and type your questions. I will make sure that I'm checking in regularly and asking those questions to our amazing experts today. Here's my question. What's the fastest, most cost-effective means for generating massive, massive visibility?
Well, I'll start off, huh? All right. So, from obviously, as you can see on our our lower third there, this is the influence game, and you guys can speak to that. And today, really, there is no more cost-effective, cost-efficient way to gain massive exposure, massive marketing reach, and massive visibility than leveraging the power of new media. And by new media, we mean, well, let's just run through it, right? So it's podcasting, it's blogging, it's live streaming, it's recorded video, it's recorded, well, of course, you also have live audio as well, and then social media and apps and so on. So pretty much whatever is not radio or TV or print kind of falls into the category nowadays of new media.
Yeah, and technology was not meant to get in the way. Sometimes it causes problems because people are frightened of it, just like email was supposed to make life easier, and it's made life more stressful and overwhelming. But I will tell you that exposure is simple when you have a weekly show. Now, if you have a weekly show on a topic that you're an expert in, you don't even have to be an influencer. You will eventually become one by repetitively, every single week, 52 weeks out of the year. You don't even have to record it every week. You can record a bunch on a day called Content Day and then start releasing it online, on iTunes, on Stitcher, and other platforms that are super simple, and a personal assistant can do it for you. Really what has changed the landscape is that in the old days you had to be the best-selling author, you had to be the best well-known speaker in a niche, or a niche as you guys would call it, or gals would call it. I want to.
He speaks Canadian. Oh my
God. Yeah, we want to for sure. And then you had to have a workshop that everyone knew about, and over time you would get your own show. That was the concept. Well, because of the new media live streaming technology that's available, that's flipped. You can start with your show. You don't have to be famous, and then you can write the book from the content of the show. You can create the signature speech from the content of the show. Sloppy success is better than perfect mediocrity. Just get started. You can fill the workshops as a result of having the show. So forget about lead magnets and squeeze pages and all this marketing speak. You just have an editorial show. It's more believable than marketers. I'm an artificial sweetener, right? If you have an organic way to present content worthy of devotion, everything has switched so that the show comes first, then you write the book, then you write the speech, then you have the workshop.
I love it.
I love that. I really love that. Wow, you've given me a whole new approach to think about how I write my next book, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I just want to cut to the chase because I'm a cut to the chase kind of girl. This is the most common question I get from my students and people I work with. What would you say is the most important thing or the best way to become an authority or a recognized expert in your field?
Yeah, well, first of all, you have to really understand what your field is, because it's like a lot of people, try to do so much that they never really make a name for themselves and get any sort of headway in a particular field, right? So Alex and I believe that it really starts with understanding what we call your TOI, right, which is your topic of influence. And what are you going to focus on? And the problem for a lot of people is they just don't want to, they don't want to be thrown in a bucket. You can't chain them up. They don't want to just be that one thing. Not saying that that's what you have to do, but historically, if you look at the marketers that have had meaningful success, have been able to generate, serious revenue and have a really impressive following, those people typically are doing one thing that enables them to, a lot of people want to go out and try to find their audience, and when you do the one thing, it really enables and empowers the audience to find you. And I think that's one of the biggest differences is people try to force the issue, and if they can just focus on whatever it is that they're naturally wired to excel at, identify the people that they're most compelled to serve, and then go down that path, what inevitably happens is they will start building up that following. They will start becoming a lot more comfortable about putting out more content that specializes in that particular arena and serving that particular subset of the business or general population.
Yeah, I know a great book on that topic written by this guy named Steve.
Well, he's repurposing the book as he speaks right now.
Yeah,
and,
I love that.
For me, everyone is familiar with Mahatma Gandhi's famous phrase and tagline, "Be the change you want to see in the world." But 2,500 years before Gandhi was a guy who was walking around Athens in a toga He was the mentor to Plato, who in turn mentored Aristotle, who in turn mentored a Macedonian, Alexander the Great. And what Socrates said is the greatest way to live with honor in this world is to be the person we pretend to be. And that's one quote I really have to read again and again. Actually, it's on my Skype. And the reason for that is if you can just pretend to be an expert, if you can pretend to have a topic of influence, a TOI, then the easiest thing to do is to follow some mentors. That's a Greek word. Or guides. Okay, that is a English word. Or tutors. That's a French word. A guru. That's an Indian Sanskrit word. Or maybe a maestro. That's an Italian word. All right. Or a coach. That's an American word. Whatever you do, follow the person who's taken the path before you, and that's what Steve and I are representing, mentors to folks who want to take editorial content, not marketing content, but editorial content and creating an organic following without search engine optimization, because Google loves that type of content. You don't even need an SEO expert. You become that expert by simply living into the person you pretend to be. So as long as you have that topic and you've modeled someone that you want to be like, start modeling them more often by showing up and stalking them ethically and making sure you add to the social conversation that they're creating, and then you'll start finding your own little niche, like they say in Canada, or niche. So rich in your niche, rich in your niche. It doesn't matter what persuasion, but you got to start with a role model. And so that's how I started. And my role model and my root guru is Buckminster Fuller. And I come from that lineage. And every person has a lineage of people that they learn from. As long as you're very aware of that, then you can follow that lineage, and then you will find the topic of influence. Actually, if you do it the right way, it will find you.
Wow, beautiful. I love that you're talking about these paths and finding mentors, and I'll say when I started my business, I was actually a little bit reluctant to find mentors. I wanted to go at it all my own and believe that I had all the right answers, and it was when I found a mentor to work with me, everything opened up. And I love that you were talking about the importance of focus and paths, finding that path. So here's a question about that, about paths. What are some of the steps that a person needs to take to get people to take their desired actions without, I guess you could say, engaging in coercion or a feeling of manipulation?
Yeah, let's just, not be smarmy.
Yeah, not be smarmy.
Yeah. And it's a fine line. And
that's a Canadian word, just so you know.
Right. And it's a fine line, because obviously you want to develop a relationship with your audience. I mean, if people are interested in learning about you and learning more from you, well, somehow you have to be able to open up that dialogue, right? So I think to some extent we do have to get over this preconceived notion that asking someone to opt in is a bad thing somehow, because really it's a service to them, and that's how you have to look at it, is that when they opt in, so long as when they give you their name and email address, you're not hitting them with all a bunch of crap from that point forward, as long as you are serving them moving forward, then it really makes all the sense in the world for them to want to give you their contact information so that you can continue to add value for them. And one of the things that Alex and I have been teaching most recently here with Push Button Influence is that another way to really think about this too is when you have an email subscriber list, well, as you know, if you get 10% of the people to open that email, you're doing okay. You get 15%, you're doing pretty good. 20% is like off the charts, right? I mean, that's like a huge amount of opens on an email list. But if you look at it from the other way around, which is if you get someone to subscribe to your podcast or to subscribe to maybe another type of show or another presence that you have, it's a difference between pushing the email at them, which then has a 10 to 20% open rate if you're lucky, versus them opting in for that content and pulling it, and every time they pull it, it's a 100% open rate, and that's a huge difference.
And the easiest way to approach this without being manipulative or invasive is remember a three-part formula that starts with C. And most people start with creating content and think that that's the beginning. But we're in the 21st century. There is no such thing as content creation. In fact, if you think there is, you're in a deep, deep denial, and you need some information marketing therapy because it just doesn't exist. First, there is curation, like a museum curator. You're curating content and give people the acknowledgement where it came from because you'll automatically borrow their authority. If I'm, well, I already did it with Socrates and Gandhi, right? And so by giving people acknowledgement of where the source of the lineage of that content came from, then you're curating it and you're borrowing the authority of that lineage of that content. So curate is the first step. The second C is create. So after you've curated content that's in like this bucket of information, then it's that's your bibliography, right? Like in writing a book. So now you pick the bits and pieces. Now you're organizing it. You're making it sequential. And by sequencing it, you make it in a format that is digestible and it makes sense, and you have it created. And then the final part is what you want to spend 80% of your time on. And rather than spending 80% of your time on the third C, which is connection, curate, create, and connect, what people do is they go back to create, and they create something new, and then something new, and they write another book and another book. Connection is about repurposing. Connection is putting different formats in visual format, in video, in spoken word, which is audio, and written format, which is book form or blogs. And by connecting as many new media platforms as possible, people will say, wow, you're everywhere. You take Steve's book, What is Your What? You put 8.5-inch by 11-inch sheets of paper. That's what it is here in the United States. It's A4 in other parts of the world. And you drill 3 holes down the side. In England, drill 2 holes down the middle. And you put that in a 3-ring binder, and you put an audio tape with Steve's voice, and now a $20 book became a $200 how-to course, same exact content that's been connected and repurposed in a different way. So if all we do is curate, create, and then connect and spend the majority of our time connecting, which is a marketing activity, there is no manipulation because people are finding us. And it is that easy.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful model, Alex. It's so consistent with what I teach. I love it. You know, and so, okay, you've talked about, you know, that people, once you find your mission and you know what your message is, you know, then you talk about the connecting. You know, how do you easily connect that mission and message with the masses then? What are some of the things people need to be doing?
Can I take it?
Sure.
There's 2 ways. In the PBI method, and PBI stands for push button influence, not push button profits, not push button monetization or push button money. It's influence. Everything begins with influence, as you both know, relationship capital. Unlike money, it can take decades to build, and you can lose it with one comment. Just one comment.
Did we lose them?
Oh, I'm just looking here. It's showing that they're still with us.
Alex, oh, there we go. Alex, you faded for a second there. Can you repeat the last couple sentences you just said?
What we have learned with the PBI method, which stands for push button influence, not push button profits, monetization, or push button money. There's not something that's instant. It focuses on influence, which is relationship capital. That's our summary that we just got because we froze, right? Yeah. Well, what we know is there's 2 ways to get that message out there and to connect and put the message and mission together. Number 1, you have your own weekly show where you interview people. You have a sermon type of show where you're delivering content. You can have a Q&A type of show. You can even have a summit where you have multiple people. And that's a weekly format. Now, we have a weekly show every Wednesday, and we do that on Blab, but you can do it on Periscope. You can do it on a Webinar Jam like you're doing here, or on a Hangout. It doesn't matter what you do it on audio, video, even on a blog with written word. Just be consistent every single week. Sometimes it's bi-weekly. We have a friend, John Lee Dumas, every single day. The guy's a machine. All right, so you have a consistent show. Then the second way is get on other people's shows. So what better thing to have as a call to action than subscribing to another show. So if you're on someone else's show, you're not pitching or promoting a product into a squeeze page or into a sales page. What you're doing is you're saying, hey, if you'd like to subscribe to my show, please go to pushbuttoninfluence.com. And by doing that, what ends up happening is it's like going to a seminar and selling another seminar. You have a proven buyer sitting in the seats. If you go to a seminar trying to sell a book, well, you don't know how many people read books, probably all of them, but it's not proven. If you try to sell an audio program, you don't know if they all listen to audio and they all do the commute thing, but you know they go to seminars because they're there. So the best enrollers sell another seminar to enroll them. Well, the best talk show hosts get people to subscribe to their talk show so they can build the rapport that way and really start heating them up from cold, lukewarm to super hot, and then almost be their own sponsor and sell something and monetize from the show itself. That's our model, and that's what works. That's called the PBI method.
Love the PBI method. Alex, I was wondering if both you and Steve could just add a little bit more about building relationships. This is something that both of you are exquisite at. And when you interviewed me about a month ago, Alex, when we were talking about building relationship capital, you had some fantastic thoughts around how we go about building relationships with influencers. And I think if you could repeat some of that, that would just be fabulous to what we're talking about for the third C, which is connection.
Well, one of the best ways is if you have a partner and you can't make an event, make sure the partner is there in your stead. So a great example is there was an event where I was going to speak at. I couldn't be there because I was somewhere else. I had another commitment, and Steve spoke in my place. Now, that's the way you borrow and you trade relationship capital, because Steve probably presented it better than I could, and he was on stage, and that message went on. So if you're in a partnership like both of you are, then I don't like the divide and conquer concept. What I like is, hey, we're interchangeable, okay? So that level of relationship capital breeds trust. It breeds definitely, knowledge about a topic, and now you have access to two people. If one of us can't make it, then someone else is going there in its place. Now, you don't see that often, because many times people want to get center stage. Actually, I don't know how I come across. It looks like maybe I love the stage, but I like to be in the background. I'm good at being on stage, but I like to be the guy behind the guy or the guy behind the gal. I'm more comfortable there, but because I do well on stage, I go on stage a lot. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting, because reality is that, with all due respect, some of you are not ready yet to try to connect with people of influence. Let's be honest here, right? I mean, that influencer world is a very tight world, and it's easy to burn a bridge. I mean, like Alex said, it takes a lot of time to build up that relationship capital, and you can burn it quite quickly. And so one of the things to think about is, what can you be doing right now, right? So first and foremost, no one is going to come and knock on the door and have the sword, and they're going to anoint you and say it's time. You can now get into this world. You can now have your own show. And as Alex and I like to say, you can broadcast your brilliance, right? I mean, that's the tagline for.
I don't know. Someone came with a sword to me yesterday, right?
I
get it.
That's TMI, Teresa. We don't need and whatnot.
Someone came to my door with a sword, I'd be calling 911.
So the fact is that you have the ability to get into the game right now, right? But as you look at relationship capital, one of the ways that you build up that relationship capital is, of course, by serving before being served. And a lot of folks get hung up on this, where they're shall we say, keeping score, right? Where it's if I do something for you, then I'm going to want you to do something for me. And if you can just get to the point of helping, well, let's look at it from an influencer perspective, right? If you know what an influencer's currency is, right? I don't know if you guys have Dr. Phil in Canada, but Dr. Phil talks about currency, and if you know what someone's currency is, what projects are they working on, what nonprofits do they support, what big events do they have, maybe they have a new book coming out, at various times. Like right now, our currency is push button influence, right? So for those who come to the table and say, hey, we can help you with that, well, that's very valuable for us, and it gets our attention. So you got to do your research, right? I mean, you got to understand what their currency is, but then you have to detach yourself from the process, which literally means you have to be willing to give without the expectation of reciprocation. For a lot of people, that's really, really hard to do, but that's certainly a place where you can start building that relationship capital. And the other way that's really, really, really easy is be a part of their community, you know, because like Alex and I, we read, like if somebody comments on our blog, we read it. If somebody comments on a social media post, we read it, you know, and it's like if you can just be a part of that community, you start to build up significant relationship capital. And as a matter of fact, I mean, your name, believe it or not, becomes recognizable. And if you've got a decent picture, they're even going to recognize your face, which then leads to another thing that you can do for a lot of people, you know, who have events like we do. If you volunteer at an event, right, just to help them, you know, most event staffs are pretty small. That is one of the most powerful ways that we have found for you to connect with people of influence that you have an interest in meeting and getting to know, and more importantly, serving first. But fact is, you've got to be like Alex talked about the weekly show. If you're not if you're not doing your own weekly show, then it's like, how can you expect someone to just say, sure, come on to mine? It's like you have to, as Alex said, you have to model what other people are doing. And if you can demonstrate that you are in that world, that you in fact are an influencer in your own right, it's a heck of a lot easier to get the attention of people who you believe are influencers in their own right.
Here's a 3-step tip just at an event, very quickly. Here's a tactical thing, because I know that's what you want. When you're at an event, you know nobody there. Do what Teresa talks about in mass influence. Become an ambassador. Act like a host, as my friend Ivan Meisner says. He started Business Network International. And what in business networking, you want to act as a host and not as a participant, like you own the joint, but you don't know anyone there. And Teresa talks about it in the book. Now, here are the 3 questions I ask. If I know no one there, I'm going to be at a mastermind tomorrow in San Diego with Steve. I won't know the majority of the people there. I'll know a few people, but the people I won't know, the 3 questions I ask are as follows. Where are you from? Okay, just like that. Not what city are you from, where are you from? Now, I learned that from Jim Collins. You see, I'm name dropping because I'm getting acknowledgement. I'm borrowing authority. He wrote the book Good to Great. He's a great author. And where are you from is great because it can mean where are you from originally, you know, where'd you grow up? You know, I could say everything from Hollywood, California to Marin County. Where are you from? That's question number 1. Very, very quick. Second question is, why are you here? In other words, what reason is it that you are here right now? And if you get their why, then you kind of get a pretty good reason of how to serve them and exchange relationship capital. And the third question is, who would you ideally like to meet here? In other words, what type of person would you like to meet? And there is where you're a relationship capital exchange student and merchant at the same time, right? So you're almost a servant leader in connecting people. And if you find someone saying that they want to meet someone and someone else says they want to meet someone and you can put it together, that's not a monologue, that's not a dialogue. We like to call it a trialogue. You're actually trialoguing them together. So where are you from? Why are you here? And who's the ideal person you'd like to meet here? And now you start generating true and genuine relationship capital. That's been very useful in the past 20 years.
Beautiful, and I love it that you're giving me influence by quoting my book right now. I don't want to step over that one. Thank you, Alex.
Well, you shouldn't. I've read it 3 times. I told you that, so I got one.
I know. That's just the greatest compliment that you can ever give a writer, is to show them a dog-eared copy of their book. I remember you holding it up, and it's full of Post-it notes, and I was just like, wow. So, you know, Alex, thank you for getting down to real-time examples here, because I find those are always so juicy for people. And, you know, probably the biggest, I don't want to say complaint, but the challenge that I see people having, or a challenge I get asked about the most, is people can't believe whether it's possible to generate significant revenue and engagement in just a few simple steps. So what's your thoughts on that? Is it possible to generate significant revenue with just you know, in a simple, elegant model?
J.K. Rowling had her daughter on her lap writing her first Harry Potter book in coffee shops while her daughter was asleep. Bill Gates sold an operating system he didn't even own and got the copyright and the licensing rights from IBM, who he thought he could never get it from. Steve Jobs made the tablet and the mobile phone and the MP3 player, not inventing it, but made it sexier, smarter, and just simpler to use. So it is that easy, but you need a level of consistency. Now, we look at their results and we go, we can't do that, or wow, it was easy for them. No, it wasn't. I know their stories, and I know the evolution they went through. What they did that others aren't willing to do is consistently go through the Shawshank Redemption tunnel that's full of sewage, but is open on the other end to not paradise. If you saw the movie, 3 hours worth, it was raining, it was muddy, it was ugly, but it was better than sewage, wasn't it? And then you got the paradise. So that's what people aren't willing to do. It's the consistency.
That's the best metaphor anyone's ever given on it.
Sewage is sewage, and what we do is we take a sledgehammer, we bash that sewage tunnel right in the middle, and we get out of here.
When the lightning's going, ready? And the thunder, ready? Bam!
So that's what people aren't willing to do. They're not willing to go through the consistency because, as Jim Rohn often said, name dropping again, borrowing authority, he was a mentor, he said, opportunity shies away from need. Opportunity shies away from need. If you're chasing the money, it's kind of like holding on to a date or a partner on their leg and they're dragging you across the floor, and they don't want that. It's too needy. That's what you're doing with money, and it won't follow you. So that's really what I have to say about it.
And let me add this, because it's so important to understand that big audiences start out as small audiences, right? Nobody just wakes up one day and goes, I'm going to put on an event and 10,000 people are going to be there, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. Alex and I, for those who are going to be a part of what we're doing here with Push Button Influence, they're going to get a directory, the ultimate directory of influencers, which is comprised of 241 people who can make you famous at the push of a button. Right now, every single person in that directory started out just like you. You may actually even have a head start over where they started out. I mean, you may already have content. You may already have a following. You may already have an email list. So you may even be farther down the road than the people who are in the directory when they first started. So in other words, think about it this way. The question, Teresa, that you asked was, what do you tell people who don't believe it's possible, right? And the answer is you look at the people who are where they are now and you follow the steps that they took to get there, and you work backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards until you've got a bite-sized little step that you can take on their path. And if you follow, it's like the breadcrumbs, right, of Hansel and Gretel or whatever they use to find their way through the forest. And it's like if you follow those breadcrumbs, Tony Robbins, name dropping, says, success leaves clues. So all of those people, and when they started, I'm sure they thought, it's not possible. I don't know where this thing is going. King Bach, this guy who's in the direct, he's got 15 billion. That's a B. 15 billion Vine loops, right? And he just wanted to do some fun things, have some fun. And it's like, and now do you think he's making money with that sort of, following? Of course he is. But the answer to the question is, for those who don't think it's possible, look at the people who are showing you on a consistent basis, time and time again, that if you stay the course, as Alex said, if you're consistent, if you stay the course, then that's when the magic absolutely can happen.
All right, now here's one thing, and I hope it's okay for me to bulldoze this some more. The fastest and easiest way to get depressed and to feel your not enoughness or your self-worth issues pop up is just look at the results of thought leaders. Look at the results of influencers. Look at where they are right now. Their point B, right? The easiest way to get hope is to watch the biographies of those same thought leaders so that you see the lineage and the hero's journeys and all the nervous breakdowns that Abraham Lincoln had and Walt Disney had, and all the times that they were in that Shawshank Tunnel and they came out. If you look at the human narrative that they went through, in other words, the evolution of the result, you will no longer be depressed. You will have more hope because you're way ahead. It's a matter of looking at a new perspective. This word, ladies, say it out loud.
Impossible.
Yeah, I don't see that word. I don't see that word. I see two words. I see two words.
I love it.
I'm possible. I love it.
It was always willing to make its way out if you gave it a chance. So I'm not going to be here on a personal development kick saying have a new perspective, but I will tell you, don't look at the results. Look at the narrative and the evolution, the lineage of how they got there, and you will see that they beat out 65 billion other little beings. They grew up 1 million times their size. They took about a 100-millimeter swim, and they were born a genius. They just learned how to grow weak over time. So just go back and check out those stories, and you'll see every billionaire was once starting from scratch.
Beautiful.
You know, I just wanted to share one of the very first times, Alex, I ever heard you on a webinar. You were talking about the importance of the two things, and this is going way back years ago that I was on a webinar with you, or I think it was a teleseminar in those days, and you talked about two things that have just stood out for me. And Steve, I heard you say this again, something similar in San Diego, was the importance of congruence and authenticity in your message, in your personal and professional branding, and how you show up and how you build relationships. And I just want to thank you both for that, because that has been something that I've woven into my business time and time again, and it has been so valuable in building relationship capital. And I want to let you both know there is tons of love going crazy for you both on the chat box. People really appreciating this concept of being able to give without return. People being very excited about starting their own show and the importance of building ongoing long-term authentic relationships. And so thank you all for these great comments. I'm going to continue to look at these. And another comment about they love that reframe, Alex, from impossible to I'm possible. What a great mindset. Yes, I love that.
A lot like my favorite Charles Mooley quote, which is possibility destroys the impossible. So I love that. That's brilliant. So Alex, one question that's coming up here, if you don't mind addressing it and just speaking directly to it. So what is push-button influence?
Well, push-button influence is a methodology, it's a mindset, and we call it the PBI method because we like things that are shorter. And what it is an exposure methodology, because before you get a client or a student or a member or a patient or a customer, whatever you call that person, let's call it a buyer, right? Before you get the buyer, you need lots of prospects. You need people who have opted in. You need people who raised their hand and gave you a shy yes. But to get lots and lots of prospects in that bucket, to get those buyers, you need a lot of clicks, at least online, right? You need a lot of hand raises. You need a lot of applications turned in if you're in the offline world. But to get a lot of those, you need lots of exposure. And we look at exposure as the seeds that turn into the roots that end up turning into the fruits, as my good friend T. Harv Eker says, and one of our strategic alliance partners. So people don't focus on exposure. What people focus on are customers and traffic and prospects, and they're missing the root cause that creates abundance in their business. So how do you get more exposure? There's two ways. You have your own weekly show that has a compounding effect, and you get on other people's shows that have done for you exposure already built in, because their results, like the people in the directory, which I think we're going to give people access to before anyone else. There's 240 of them. It took us, I think, 2 or 3 months to put it together.
It was brutal.
Maybe longer, right? Every time I ask Steve, how's it going, he'd go like this. I go, okay, we're doing great, all right? So the goal is to have your own show for one reason, so you can catch all of the audiences coming from other people's shows. It's not to get massive exposure at first. It's to be a great guest on someone else's show, right? So if you're on Good Morning America And let's say you're Anderson Cooper, they know where to go and see you every night, right? On CNN. Well, if you have your own show and no one's watching it because no one knows you, no problem. Go get on someone else's show, and those twin towers of power can go from on someone else's show, and the exposure and the audiences come back to yours, and now they subscribe and they get to know, like, and trust you through your content and not through your ethical bribes, not through your lead magnets and all those artificial sweeteners that I have been part of as a marketer for the past 25 years. That is not the fastest path to success. It's editorial content, because that's what's more believable. So have your own show and then get on other people's shows, which is why we have the directory. Steve?
Yeah. And, you know, look.
I'm just going to say, too, sorry, Steve, I want to hear what you have to say, but, you know, when we got our copy of that directory, we instantly looked at it and went, wow. Wow. And our first step was to set up a meeting so my team could discuss how to really capitalize on that. So I just want to thank you for putting that together, because we've already got the juices flowing. My team's been firing emails back and forth for 2 days now saying, wow, here's all these great ideas we could use to figure out who are the people in this directory that really resonate, and what are the ones that we want to really start investing, building a relationship with. So thank you.
You're welcome. And there's another point, because many people will have in their minds, can we do this without a show? And the answer is yes. Just make sure you have an authority website that have your show appearances on other people's shows, so they can come back and see all the content you created on other people's shows. So the answer is yes, you can do it without your own show.
Awesome. That was one of the questions that just came up. And there was a question if there was any preferences from your perspectives around Blab or Periscope as a form of new media. Any thoughts on that from either of you?
Sure, I'll take that on. So reality is that every single platform, and kind of going back to what push-button influence really is a big part of this is just understanding what this whole new media landscape is all about, so that you can identify your preferred new media platform, so that you can consistently create content that adds value for the people you're most compelled to serve. So the answer is I don't know, because I don't know you, and Alex doesn't know you. You may actually find that Periscope is the right platform for you. Now, we opted to go in the direction of Blab for 2 reasons. Number one, like iTunes, Blab actually has their own built-in audience. So what does that mean? It means it's a great platform for those who don't have, you know, it's a perfect platform for sure for those who don't have a tremendous amount of reach right now, because, you know, when you look at things like Periscope and Google Hangouts and whatnot, you really have to drive people to those shows, to those platforms, in order to get, you know, viewers. Like right now, you guys had to do a ton of promotion to get people to watch this presentation, right? And awesome. So if you have that type of reach, it works really, really well. But of course, you can always go to the next level no matter where you are. So as far as Blab is concerned, they have a built-in audience. People come there looking for programming. They come there looking for things to do, right? And so it's a lot like iTunes, right? With a podcast, they have a built-in audience. They have people who organically come there, which means that your business, your show, your exposure, your visibility, that can grow right along with it. And I've got news for you. The podcast audience is going to double in the next year. It is going to double again in the following year. It will probably continue to double for the next 5 years, and we'll see what happens after that. But this is very much the embryonic stage for podcasting, even though it's been around for a long time. I mean, you'll have people who tell you, oh, geez, you know, it's like, man, you know, that's been around since God knows when, and it has, but until NPR really started putting out a lot of programming through podcasting, it just didn't have nearly the following and exposure that it does now. And when Wi-Fi hits the car, you know, it's like, forget about it. You know, I mean, it's like that's when you will be able to be just like a channel on the dial, AM, FM, satellite, podcast, bang. So again, same thing. You'll have people that can just go there when looking for programming, and it saves you a lot of time, energy, and resources. Going back full circle, we chose Blab for that reason in terms of the audience, but also because it's much more user-friendly. It's very interactive. You can have people that, you know, have the chat roll going just like this. You can also then bring people in, right, into the conversation, which of course you can do here as well. But Alex has been using Google Hangouts for a long time. It works really well. Google Hangouts, as we all know, has latency issues, right? I mean, there's just the mouth doesn't always move with the words, and it can be distracting. So Blab, for whatever reason, has been able to figure out the whole latency issue, which makes for a better, higher quality presentation and broadcast. And then, you know, they can actually interact with you. As I said, on Periscope, it's like if you ask something, it's this continuous stream, so you can't really catch up with it if you're the broadcaster, and you can't go back to see the things that people are asking you and what they're saying. So from a broadcasting perspective, it's not nearly as user-friendly as Blab, so that's just our preferred new media platform. Yours might be different.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So, oh my gosh, I got a to-do list that's growing and growing from this information. And Steve, your comment about the growth that we're going to see through podcasting, boy, oh boy, I know what my plan is for next week to get doing that and doing that more regularly. So I would love to have the conversation about this directory that we've been referring to, because it is absolutely phenomenal. I will agree with you, Teresa. It has just opened up my eyes. And what I wanted to add to what Teresa said is that when I was looking through the directory, what I started to notice was that I was looking at bloggers and podcasters' platforms and social profiles much differently based on how you provided the information in the directory, and that was something that was brand new for me, so I appreciate that. So with push button influence, what's possible for people over the next, say, I don't know, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and tell us about the directory, and I will put up on the screen where people can find out more about that and access that.
You talk about the directory.
Sure.
If you are thinking about having your own show, then the single most important activity you can do is not to curate, not to create, and not even to connect, but first to think about and design an editorial calendar. And I'm going to give you in less than 60 seconds the way we teach it with the PBI method. Now, you have a topic. It could be about anything. For us, let's say it's how to get more exposure, more marketing reach, and more visibility, right? So let's say that's our topic. Well, the first show that you do is half an hour, and it's the 5 secrets on how to get more exposure, more marketing reach, and more visibility. So that show is going shallow and wide on those 5 topics. You know what it is, you know why it's important, and then you're not going really deep on the how, but you have that first show out. Now, the second week, now you can record this all on one day, which we recommend. The second show, the following week, is going to be tip number or secret number 1, where you talk about the how, and you go really deep on what it is, why it's important, and how it works. Another 30 minutes. The next week, week number 3, you go deep on tip number 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. One 5-tip or 5-secret show gets you 6 weeks. Now, the 7th week, what do? Why not have a question and answer session on the previous 6 weeks? Okay, great. So I got 6 weeks of content. Anything next? Yeah. What about 6 more weeks? 5 of the biggest mistakes people make on getting exposure, marketing reach, and visibility. The first set is all about moving towards something, secrets, strategies, tactics. And the second set is about moving away, mistakes, costly errors, etc. So the first one is about the 5. Now, you can make it 6 or 7. I like 5 because it's less work. So you go 5, and you go shallow and wide, and then you go deep on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the next 5 weeks. You got 6 more weeks, and then another Q&A. You have 14 weeks, which is 1 week even more than a season. If it's good enough for winter, fall, spring, and summer, it is good enough for you. And there you have 90 days of content worthy of devotion, not to mention the other shows that you'll get on. So that's what I have to say about creating your own show. It's easier than you think, and all it requires is a little planning. What about the directory?
Well, let me ask you this, because directory is probably not the right word. We were kicking around like all sorts of ideas, because directory doesn't even like do it justice, really. It's like, a yellow page. It's not, I mean, it's much, much more than that, because we spent a lot of time identifying the world's leading 241 of them, the most powerful podcasters, the most, shall we say, biggest, big-time bloggers, and the social media stars. But we actually went through a number of different criteria because there were so many people out there, and narrowing it down to these top folks wasn't nearly as easy as you might think. So, look, reality is that these folks are people more than anything else. Should you reach out to them? I mean, at some point, yes, but Alex and I actually spent, we've got 3 pages of all the reasons why you don't want to just reach out to them now. And a lot of people are going to make the mistake. Look, they're going to get the directory. It's got their name. It's got their photo. It's got their, area of focus. It has their social media stats. It's got the bio, and it's got the email address.
It's got the email that's audited. Their email works.
We've checked them all.
Wow.
So, and what people are going to do, they're going to go, oh, cool, I'm going to send an email to this guy, and I'm going to send an email to this girl, and it's just going to be a huge mistake. So Alex and I, like I said, literally spent, 3 pages explaining what you need to do first before you start getting click crazy on that. But at the end of the day, these are 241 people who can make you famous at the push of a button. And so it's not only showing you what's possible, because when you see what they have been able to do, I know it's going to inspire you to take action, right? I mean, that's what this is all about. Like Alex has been saying, it's consistency. It's consistent action. And so more than anything else, our hope is that the directory inspires you, because as we said earlier, these are just people like you, like me, like Alex, who started out with 0 followers, 0 people on their email list, 0 people in their audience, period. And so you'll see it. You'll be able to talk to these people at some point when you're ready. But for now, at least it'll give you a really clear understanding of what we call the new media landscape.
And when you get it, when I get it, yeah, when you get it, we're teasing, okay? We're building tension. You're going to get it. We're going to give it to you. But when you get it, here's the key. And Steve's right. Ask yourself the 5 questions that we put on the first 2 pages. It's really important. It's a 32-page document. But the first 2 are the most important, because if you can't answer a confirmed yes on 4 of those 5 questions that we ask you, it's kind of like a sieve. It's almost like a vetting mechanism. Mm-hmm. Then don't reach out yet, because guess what? If you burn that bridge, it's like relationship capital. You can't rebuild the bridge, okay? Once it's burned, and they know each other. So if you want to get blackballed from the world's most powerful podcasters, bloggers, and social media stars, reach out to them and spam them, right? But if you would like to build the bridge so that they build one halfway and you build one halfway, just like the Golden Gate Bridge, which is about 9 miles away from where we're sitting, was built. It's built from both sides, and it meets in the middle. If you want to do that, then that will create devotion on behalf of all these social media stars and podcasters and bloggers. And just like this bamboo behind me, like they call bamboo the fastest growing plant on earth. Well, it is, but 3 years it grows underground. Some cases 15 years, and then it shoots up. That's why they call it a shoot, right? A bamboo shoot. And it grows like about 6 inches, very, very fast, like 6 inches every few weeks, right? So it's almost like you can watch it grow. But is it growing fast above ground? No. It's growing underneath. If you have bamboo in your backyard, you are not. Jack Canfield has bamboo in his backyard. He hates it because it takes over the yard. But see, it's growing fast underneath. That's what you want. You want deep roots. You want a nice root system. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not fun. I know you need patience. But guess what? You will take over the new media landscape if you're willing to create that root system versus what the Aussies did. They played a trick on us. They gave us eucalyptus trees, very shallow roots with one strong wind. Bam! They fall over, and I used to miss school because all the eucalyptus trees were down in Los Angeles during the Santa Ana wind. So I loved eucalyptus trees. That's not how you want to build your business. So eucalyptus, go ahead and spam them. Bamboo, take your time and build a bridge so that they meet you halfway. How's that for an analogy?
So there is a Los Angeles equivalent to Hawaii. That's so cool.
And I'm a little scared right now.
I'm never going to look at bamboo the same way now. I'm going to see bamboo in a completely different light, Alex. But,
I was just going to say I'm a little scared right now because you obviously have amazing people in your tribe, because I don't know how they did it, but at least 2 of the people in your tribe somehow have already gotten the directory. So you have amazing people in your tribe. We haven't even released it yet.
So there we go. Thank you so much for sharing that with people. That's just awesome. I just love that. And it is as Teresa and I were saying, this is something that our teams are really embracing and see such huge value. The fact that you framed those questions in the beginning and sort of outlined the, I don't know, rules is not the right word, maybe the guidelines or the thoughts around influence etiquette are extremely important in terms of those long-term relationships that we want to build with influencers. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm so glad you emphasized don't spam people because, boy, that's one of the worst things you can do is automatically add someone to your list without permission and things like that. I really appreciate you reinforcing that one because I really do think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make.
It's creative avoidance. It's going back to childhood regression. We want that marshmallow right away, but if you know the study, if that child delayed gratification for 15 minutes, they get a second marshmallow, and those children are the ones who became multimillionaires because that's what entrepreneurship is delayed gratification. It's not an oxymoron. It's a way of thinking.
Beautiful. Thank you. And lots of you have been seeing the graphic of the 2016 Ultimate Directory of Influencers on the screen there, and you can access that so generously from Alex and Steve there on the screen. And if you're looking for the link, it's pushbuttoninfluence.com/EBC, which stands for Evolutionary Business Council. Definitely a resource that's going to guide what we do in a tremendous way.
Yeah, awesome. Well, anything else that we can add value for here? Because I know people are like chomping at the bit. They're like, where do we get the directory? How do we do it? Let's get right in this thing right now. Where are the questions?
People are already downloading it. I love it.
They're already looking at it, yeah.
Whole new way. This is what the directory does. It's done for you exposure. All right, it's already there. Just use it. When you light a match, it's on mass. In Teresa's book, you got like 9 matches, right? So however many matches you got. When you light a match, if you give it in the hands of a child, they can burn down a house. If you give it to an adult, you light a candle, right? So it's like fire. If you use it for the wrong reasons, then you're going to get hurt. So just make sure you treat it like an adult and you do your modeling, you show up, you build a relationship capital. Here's how you know you've done it the right way, folks. Okay? You're not going to want to hear it, but I'm going to tell you anyway because it works. If you do it the right way and you add value, you keep showing up, they're going to say, who is this person? And then they're going to reach out and ask you to be on the show. That is how you do it. And when that happens, everything changes.
Yeah, I love it. Guys, I've followed you both for so long during my career. Alex, especially, I can't remember the first time I saw you speak was probably 12, 13 years ago at a Harv Eker event. Wow. And you were generous with your info then, and you continue to be so generous to the industry. I don't know how many people I've met in this industry that you've contributed to and shared with your teaching. And Steve, I'm a huge fan of your work. You guys are just awesome. Thank you so much for being so generous with your knowledge here today.
Yeah, well, we really, on behalf of Alex and and me and our team, we really appreciate you guys, having us on for sure.
Absolutely, we really appreciate you both, and really, I encourage everyone to go on and download that the link to the directory. It's in the chat box. It's on your screen as well, and let's get building some influence and applying these tips. They work. They absolutely work. Alex and Steve, always a pleasure to be on a webinar with you. You're so gracious about the content that you share with us. Thank you, and everyone here is shouting out, "Thank you, great content."
Yeah, we're getting flooded here with that's cool. I'm actually even getting emails popping up going, wow, awesome. So thank you guys. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks
Take
for
care,
having us.
everyone.
Thank you everyone for showing up today. This was awesome.